we could have died that night.
I think we could at least,
if not from the wind, dude, from a tree. Alright, so we are live. Welcome to the first and possibly the last episode of Summit Situations. I got my buddy here, Morgan, and my dog, Roan. And in this episode, we're just going to talk about the story of how we came across Roan here, this dog, on Roan Mountain in Tennessee. And it's like this beautiful highlands in eastern Tennessee, right near the North Carolina border. The Appalachian Trail goes through it. That's what we were hiking on when we found this guy. And it's really just a wild story, and we wanted to go over it in a little podcast for y'all to hear. Roan shows up in pretty much all my videos, so I felt like I would do him the justice of explaining how he came to be mine. So, basically, I guess where we start is that every spring break that we had when you were still going to Penn State, I think for the first one, right?
Yeah, I was still going to Penn State. We usually set up a 5-6 day trip over
spring break.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we weren't really into, we never went to like Daytona, Florida and did all the partying thing. We just really wanted to get out in nature and get hiking. So yeah, we always made it a mission of ours to go on a backpacking trip for spring break. And Morgan here had already graduated from Penn State, and I think you graduated 2 years before I did, right?
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, and we decided, this is going to be the last one since I was a senior. It was my spring break, and Morgan just got off work for the week, and our plan was we were going to go to, it's in the Cherokee National Forest, technically, right?
Yeah, it was the Cherokee National Forest. I think we were in and out of it, though.
Yeah, so we wanted to do a backpacking trip in Tennessee. Normally, so I went to school at James Madison University, and if you don't know, that's in Harrisonburg, Virginia, right next to Shenandoah National Park. And we had done backpacking trips, I think the two other ones that we did, because I think we skipped a year.
Yeah, the long spring break ones, I think, were always in Shenandoah National Forest. Yeah. There was the one we did up in Pennsylvania, though. National Park.
Yeah, was that spring break?
It was a 5-day trip. I'm thinking it was spring break. Was. Because that was the one where we did the 18-miler. We planned it for 5 days, ended up doing it in 4. We started up in Duncan, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
South.
Yeah, that was a cool trip because we ended up so the Appalachian Trail in that section, it was a really, really long day. Actually, the longest day that I've ever hiked. Was that the longest day you've ever hiked still?
Same for me.
I think we estimated it at somewhere between 18 to 20 miles that day. We're getting off track, but that was one of our spring break trips, and it was wild because the trail had these little step kind of ladder things that you could walk over, but cows and horses couldn't walk over, and it would take you right into the middle of a field.
Yeah. And I just remember the beginning of the trip was about 2 miles down, and then it was flat for 14 miles, and then the last 2 miles was straight uphill, and we kept passing people, and they were asking us, hey, how's it going? And it was just like, oh, we're not doing good. Like, we're ready to be done. Yeah, that normally, even if you're doing kind of bad on the trail, I don't know about you guys if you ever backpack, but I'm always just going to be like, yeah, we're doing great. Like, nice day out here. Even if it's like spitting ice at us, and like, we're still usually in pretty good spirits. But that day, like, it was flat, like we said, for most of it. But man, when we were in like the beating sun, like
you don't think about that part. It's like, yeah, it was flat, but there was no shade from the trees and like.
You're just going through farms.
Oh yeah, that was rough, and we were shuffling our feet at the end of it. And like you said, we got to that end point. Saw some people, and man, we finally got to camp, and I think didn't we just lay there for like 2 hours and didn't even unpack anything? Then I think it started like just spritzing like rain like a little bit, and then we were like, all right, I guess it's time to set up.
We set up the hammocks and were basically in there the rest of the night.
Yeah, but back to the story of Roan. So it was actually first let's crack our beers here. So we just went to the Shop and Save in town and grabbed this Victory beer. Many people are familiar with the Sour Monkey. This one's a fruited sour, what's it, a triple? Is that how you say it?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure exactly, but it's called the Berry Monkey, and it's also 9.5% alcohol, so it's up there. It's like a couple beers in one. But we're gonna try this one out while we talk and just have a little fun with it. So crack this guy. You wanna? He's a good boy. And I'll be doing that with the sweet dog voice. People always make fun of me for it, like not in a mean way, but in a fun way. But I really just don't care because this is my Bubba, and he likes the sweet voice, right? You good boy. But anyway, so back to the story. You want to get down, buddy? Good boy. So, what was our plan? This time it wasn't just going to be backpacking because we were going to be in Tennessee. Morgan and I are big country music fans, big bluegrass fans. We're going to see some like bluegrass or / folk music tonight at the Purple Fiddle in town. That's going to be a good time. But what we wanted to do was hike the Appalachian Trail section in like northeast Tennessee-ish. That's where Roan Mountain is, right on the border. And we were going to hike we started on Saturday, and we were going to finish. Morgan came like to Harrisonburg on Friday. Then in the morning on Saturday, which is what we did, we were going to start our hike. We were only going to bring one car since it was so far. Normally, if we wanted to do a trip on the Appalachian Trail and avoid doing an out and back hike and just backtracking over what you've already seen, we usually shuttle cars. So we would drive 2 cars to where we were going to end up, leave one, bring the keys, mind you, very important. Don't forget the keys. Yeah, right? Don't forget the keys, Ronnie boy. And then you drive the car that you guys both take. I'm sure this is probably dumb to explain, but then you start your hike and then you end up at the ending car.
Yeah, but this time, since we were driving so far, you had set up ahead of time a hostel that was going to shuttle us. So I drove my truck down to the starting point or ending point.
Yep.
And then we caught the hostel where they shuttled us all the way to the starting point.
Ooh, dang, dude, that's similar to the one we just got at Stumptown, I think. That's better than Sour Monkey, I think.
Absolutely better than
That's
Sour
so
Monkey.
good, dude. Wow. And that's 9.5%. Yikes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then we were going to end, on Friday, I think. We were planning on getting back to the following Friday. We were going to get back to your truck.
Yep.
And then we were going to drive like 3 or 4 hours or something to Nashville and have a grand old time. We had a hotel picked out and everything.
Yep.
It was gonna be sweet. But that's where the story begins. So we got up in the morning, left Harrisonburg, and then
This is where we stopped and got the biscuits.
Yeah, can't leave that out. That's the first time I had it, and I think the only time you've had it. Yeah.
Biscuit Scratch Company?
Scratch Biscuit Company.
Scratch Biscuit
yeah,
Company.
so We're also big foodies, Morgan and I. So every time we go on a trip, we try to find a little mom and pop place to stop and eat. No chains, like ever. We really just like trying local food. So I had seen this video on Facebook that was like the best 5 biscuit places in the Shenandoah Valley. And this one in Roanoke called Scratch Biscuit Company, not sponsored. I don't know why you would believe that I'd be sponsored by anything at this point, but
it's the first episode.
Just right. I'll just put that disclaimer out there anyway. But they are incredible. Like probably still my favorite biscuit that I think I've ever had. I don't know about you, but
yeah, it was up there.
Yeah, just like not too dry, but not like super moist. Like just like a good biscuit texture. We're big foodies. We don't really know how to talk about food.
We just like eating it.
Right. We just love eating it and just going, dude, this is so dang. Oh my gosh. But yeah, we stopped at this biscuit place. I think I got like, I saw on the menu they had like country fried sausage, and I was like, is that literally just like sausage that's battered and then fried? And sure enough, yeah. And as you can imagine, it's incredible. Got that on a biscuit. I think you might have.
I think we got the same thing.
Yeah, I think we usually do. We have pretty similar tastes, I think, in food. But yeah, we got that, and then that was about our halfway point down to Roan Mountain. Or we didn't start at Roan Mountain, but down to Tennessee, and then we what did we just like? We knew where we had to go, I think, right? So we just went to the meetup point.
Yeah,
where we left your.
Yeah, so we had it all planned out before we left JMU, so we knew where we were going to end. So we just drove my truck there, and you had already had the hostel on the phone, and they said we're going to pick you up at this time, and we pretty much only had to wait around for 10, 15 minutes. The guy picked us up and started driving us down to the beginning.
Yep, I think it was called like Uncle Johnny's or something. If you're an AT through hiker, you definitely know Uncle Johnny's. I think that's what it was. But they were nice. They got us like where we needed to be. Dropped us off at the start point, and then how many miles did we do that day?
I don't think it was very far. Probably 4 miles in, maybe
4 or 6. I kind of remember 6, but it wasn't more than that, like 6.
No, but it was a relatively easy hike. I think it was uphill onto the trail, and then it was pretty much following a ridge until we got to our campsite. And it was a beautiful day.
Beautiful
sunny,
day.
Warm.
Like 65 and sunny. Like we always say, like there's that classic, like 75 and sunny is the perfect day. But backpacking, Morgan and I and a lot of my other friends, I think, agree that 65, like 55 to 65 and sunny, or really overcast, I think is better. But the temperature of 65 is like perfect because
once you get hiking with a 30, 40-pound pack on, get hot, that cool breeze cools you down. It's perfect weather.
Yeah, it's great, and it's not hot enough to get you like so sweating that you want to take your shirt off. That's the only problem in summer is I'll get like chafing a little bit. My pack starts rubbing. If it gets so hot that I got to take my shirt off, like I'm definitely gonna chafe and like here on the shoulders and stuff with the pack, no matter what pack I've used. But yeah, if it's like 65 or lower, it's a great day for hiking. Not really any worry of overheating. Didn't have any worry of overheating after that, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, we're thinking of our spring break trips from before where it's super hot.
Yeah.
So we're packing. I mean, we looked at the weather and it was supposed to be a little bit cold, but we didn't see anything crazy. So we packed moderate gear, nothing cold weather. I mean, we had good sleeping gear, but nothing for freezing temperatures. We were expecting maybe 40 degrees, 45 degrees, which our moderate gear is plenty for that.
Right. And in Shenandoah in March, granted, it is far north of Roan Mountain and the Tennessee section of the AT. Like, obviously, Virginia's north of Tennessee. And if you aren't good at geography, you're welcome for that piece of information. But Yeah, so it was normally warmer though because in Virginia, in Shenandoah on the Blue Ridge, the mountains are not too high. I think the highest elevation is like 4,065, I want to say, at Hawksbill. I think that's the highest elevation in the whole park. So um, not too crazy elevation, so the temperature's not really changes too much as you get to the top. Because if you're going higher in latitude, so like farther north, in other words, the temperature is going to get cooler on the same day that you would be farther south. Or you can go higher up in elevation and it'll get cooler as you get higher up. We just weren't really thinking of the difference in the elevation of the mountains in Tennessee versus Shenandoah in Virginia.
Well, even when you look up the weather, if you're looking it up in the Tennessee,
Right.
you get the town, which is at the base of the mountain, not 3,000 feet higher at the peak.
Yeah, and I think the Roan Mountain's like what six
I
something.
think it was around 6,000. I think we just crossed that when we got to the top.
Yeah, and the shelter at the top of Roan Mountain, fun fact, is the highest elevation shelter on the Appalachian Trail, which is pretty cool. And it used to be the fire like marshal cabin for a guy staying up there to look for like wildfires and stuff, which is pretty neat. But we'll get to why that one fact is important, that it used to be a cabin, why that like saved it, and that might have saved our lives.
We'll get to that.
Right.
But we basically set up camp at this after 6 miles in our first night. It gets a little cool. We usually camp with hammocks now, but I know on this trip we used a tent.
Yeah.
So we were sharing a tent. So it was me, Frank, and
Well, that was it.
that was it.
Right.
At this point,
That was it. It was still just us two. So yeah, so we found this like nice little open area at the end of the first night on Saturday. It was beautiful out, beautiful night. I don't think we made a fire.
There's no fire. I mean, it was pretty much in a valley. You had 2 hills on both sides. It was
Yeah, and
cool, open,
it kind of came down like this, and
Yep.
we kind of sat
right in the middle.
like right in the middle, which like wouldn't be good for rain and stuff, but it wasn't. There was no rain in the forecast, and we were just kind of trusting.
Well, I think it was a kind of not a developed campsite, but people camped
Yeah.
there before, so it was already used. So we just found something easy to set up and
Yeah.
said, we'll get up early in the morning and head out from there. It'll be easy rather than
Right.
trying to hike out of a valley for it.
And the only worry for like rain would have been that our gear would have gotten all muddy and crap. It's like we still would have been protected from the rain, so we weren't doing any foolish stuff like that. So we get up in the morning. I think it was kind of chilly, right?
It was cool, but I wouldn't say
We were okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we started hiking, and I remember like pretty early on, Morgan turned to me and like he's like, "Hold on, let me stretch my knee out real quick." And I don't know if you know this, but as soon as you did that the first time, I was like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
Like whenever you hear that on a long distance backpacking trip, especially where our car is like what?
We were probably 40
Still-
miles.
Well, I was just trying to think in days, like
Oh,
5 days, 6 days of hiking away. No, yeah, like 6-ish days of hiking away. So hearing, let me stretch out my knee real quick, and I wasn't like super worried, but I was like, we're gonna want to keep an eye on that.
I mean, in our minds, we've done much more difficult trips.
Right. So I was
didn't
like,
think it was anything. I was just feeling some tightness, so I wanted to stretch out.
right, and so at that point you weren't really that worried. You were just like,
No.
it's just flaring up a bit, like whatever.
Yeah. I'll walk it off.
Right, right, and like we literally had to walk. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'd say like we were having a pretty good day.
It was tough though.
It was tough. It was tough. Like it was a lot of ups and downs that day. And I remember we kept looking on the map at this one mountain, and we're like, dude, like that I don't know how you say it, but like we kept calling it Rowan.
Rowan.
Rowan. We were like, I don't know, Roan or Rowan? I think it's Rowan. Incorrect, by the way, just to make that clear. It is Roan Mountain. But we kept seeing this mountain, and it's like 4 miles. Like, so we have this map that shows us the side profile of the elevation on the Appalachian Trail as we're hiking. So it'll show like the exact like hills and valleys that you're going over based on the elevation. And then if you look at the bird's eye view section of the map, you can see how it's going to east and west and north and south. But the side profile, that's really all we look at because it doesn't matter if you turn around as long as you know your mileage and how steep the next summit is going to be.
And I remember we were going at least a slight uphill for a long time. And I think at that point we thought we're probably on this Roan Mountain at this point. So we kept seeing in the distance that it was kind of off to the side, this really tall mountain, and we're exhausted by this point. We've probably gone 5-6 miles.
Yep.
And we see this mountain in the distance. We said, there's no way that's it. I remember joking with you. It's like, if that's the mountain we got to climb, like, I'm going to turn around and go back to the car.
Yeah, we always make, like, stupid jokes like that, and we'll just be like, oh, dude, I'm not doing that. I'm turning around. I'm going home, dude. Like, I'm walking back to the car. And, like, obviously, there was no car to walk back to, but we just make stupid jokes because we're dreading it. So, for some reason, it, like, I know why it's fun. It's like you've accomplished something and you get to the top of that mountain, but it's so miserable. Like it's like sometimes it's
physically exhausting, and it's just you just don't want to do it.
Yeah, but I think it's like that runner's high that like
when you get to that peak, it's like, wow, I just did this. Most people can't do this,
right?
And even if they can, they don't do it,
right?
And we're out there camping in this weather, hiking miles, carrying all our gear. It's a accomplishment. So the feeling afterwards, even though it's awful during it, is much better than the struggle during it.
Right. Exactly, dude. So we start our incline on Roan. I don't know if I finished saying, but I think it's like what was it? Like 4,000 feet elevation in like 4 miles.
Yeah, so I think the base of the town was like 2,000, and then we were hiking up to 6,000.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy incline. And kind of back to before we start climbing the mountain, like we were looking at it in distance, joking that I hope that's not the mountain. And I remember just continually turning closer and closer to it. And you're like looking up, and then you're just like going down towards the base of it. And then we get to this crossing where there's a road, and then you see the trail start zigzagging up this mountain, and we just stopped and took a break. And I think we had tortillas with peanut butter sitting at the base of the mountain saying, hey, we need some energy before we start climbing this. We're already exhausted, and we got 4 miles uphill. This is going to be a rough day.
And that's the cool thing about backpacking is you still aren't burning as many calories as some people make it out to be with different kinds of cardio, but honestly, like a good 12-mile day backpacking, like, with a 30, 40-pound pack on, usually I'd estimate that you're burning at least like 4,000 to 6,000. Like walking up these crazy, like you're just walking, but it's like you got weight on your back. You're walking very, very far.
Uphill, downhill.
Right. It's like, it's different from running because it's like you think, what's the best way to burn calories? Like doing some kind of cardio. Like most people are like, oh, I'm going to go for a run. I mean, it burns a bit, but you can only go for so long. And most people can't. I mean, like, I don't run, dude. Like I would die if I tried to go for a run right now.
But it's not even just hiking on a flat trail. You're looking down all the time, stepping this way, trying to avoid rocks, stepping on it. It's
and when they graciously put like stairs on the trail I'm pretty sure most of the time when they add like big rocks to make like stairs on a trail, it's really to prevent erosion mainly, but it seemed like they look like stairs, so it's like, oh, they put in stairs for us, great, and then you have to hike up your feet like super high for every single one, and your knees start feeling it.
It makes it much harder.
And I think like about a mile up Roan. After what I was getting at was basically then you can eat a ton of food and you just burn it up as you're like going. Like it's really a calories game trying to like maintain your weight on the trail and like having enough fuel to keep you going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could carry enough food backpacking to maintain your weight if you're going for a long term.
Right, and then it's also like the more heavy food that you're carrying in your pack, then the more calories that you're burning. So it's like at what point, yeah. So yeah, you could be like, oh well, you just carry more, and then it's like, yeah, then your pack is 20 pounds heavier, so then you're burning more calories. So that's like a lose scenario. So a lot of fats and peanut butters and stuff like that to get fuel. So we're like a mile up Roan Mountain, I'd say, or Rowan as we thought it was called at the time. I think that's when you started like really feeling your knee, and you were like,
I think it was a little bit more.
Maybe like 2 miles.
It started getting cold first. It started getting cool.
You're right.
And like drizzling a little bit. And then I remember it felt like that, but it was because we were going so high in elevation, we were going through the cloud line.
Yeah.
So we thought it was just moisture from the cloud line, which was really cool when we got past the top of the cloud line, because we took this picture. It looked like you were looking down at a lake,
right?
But you were looking across the valley. It was the top of the clouds.
I definitely have that picture somewhere too. I'll throw it up for like right in this scene. But yeah, like we looked back and we were like, you don't really get that at Shenandoah, dude. Like that we're above clouds right now, and you could literally just see like a sea of fog like in the mountains, and pretty neat once you get on top of it. I also remember, and this has happened before, but when you're backpacking through fog for miles and miles, and then you finally get out of it, everything looks like high definition, but your own eye. Like, you know what I'm talking about, though?
It's because with the fog, everything's just blurry. It's like there's a cloudy haze in front of your eyes, and then it's like, oh, you cleaned your windshield, now you can see.
Right, it's like, it's literally like that. Like, you wiped off your windshield, or like, you know, if you're sitting waiting for your car to defrost, and then it finally does, and your windshield's all clear. But just with your eyes, it's nuts. And I remember we kept thinking we were way further than we actually were. Just like, and we kept looking. We got to that campsite that was 2 miles up. It was halfway.
I think that's when we realized that we had a long way to go, because when you look at the map, there was like a plateau where it was like you hit a peak and then it kind of flat for a half mile and then it was uphill. And we kept thinking that, oh, we hit that plateau a little while ago and now we're on the second incline. And then all of a sudden we hit that flat. But by the time we hit that flat, even though we were above the cloud line, that's when it started raining.
Right.
And not just like a spritz. It started pouring, and it was cold, and the temperatures started dropping and dropping. We were putting our rain gear on, jackets on, and keep in mind, we weren't prepared for this. We're not prepared for this. We were prepared for 45 degrees moderate temperature, and it just started getting colder and colder, and we were like, well, we just got to keep going. And I remember I started slowing down because my knee started hurting a little bit more. It started getting tight, and I didn't think it was anything crazy, but I just was like, I'll just push through it, and Frank just took off, and he just kept going. He's like, we just got to get to the top. And then
I remember, because I did that one time, like, without us planning it. I just got ahead of you.
Yep. And then you stopped at that plateau at that campsite, and I got up there and saw the plateau, and I saw you sitting there. I said, you got to be kidding me. We still got 2 miles uphill to go, and we were exhausted.
I think I called out, and I was like, bad news, brother. Like, and you were like, no, dude. And we thought that we had already hit. This was like our marker of like halfway, is that there was this marked campsite on the map halfway, like almost exactly 2 miles up the mountain, 4 to the top. The shelter's at the very top. That's not usually how it works. Usually you stop a little before the top or get over the top, and it's a little bit past. But Roan Mountain Shelter is like right on the top of the mountain at the highest elevation.
And I remember you were sitting waiting for me. You weren't. It wasn't just like an open campsite. You were sitting there. You had your hood up. It was pouring
Oh,
rain.
yeah,
I could
and I'm
like
just
barely
like,
see you, and we're like sitting there shivering. I'm like, no, this can't be it.
And I think right then and there is when the ice started.
The ice started. Stuff started freezing on
And
your
the
pack.
wind started whipping. And yeah, because it started rain. It was like a sprinkle as we were in like the first mile of it, getting chilly. Then the second mile, it started getting breezy and like a full-on rain. And then by the time we got to that campsite, that wind was whipping. It was a mix of freezing rain and regular rain, and it started getting pretty cold. And it was becoming survival mode at that point.
And after this, I remember we just kept going. My leg hurt at this point, and the cold weather kind of made it tighten up even more. But I didn't think it was that bad. I'm just gonna push through it. We're gonna get to it. And I think we were in such a bad mood that we probably didn't say another word till we got to the top. We just went and put our heads down and just were shivering and hiking up, and we
stuck together. We stuck together, I think, for the next mile, the third mile. And that's when the trail just started getting gnarly. I mean, you'd come around like a corner in the switchbacks, which if you don't know, it's when instead of going straight up an incline, they'll kind of have you zigzag up the mountain, so that it's a lot easier. And it helps prevent like erosion and stuff like that too. If you're just hiking straight up a really steep incline, you're gonna be like slipping and kicking dirt up a lot more than if you just gradually zigzag up. But some of them would like loop like all the way around and then just like go back around the nose of like a side, and it was like not a regular switchback, but they were still so steep. And this is the point when it's just going up. Just completely just going up. And Morgan, I think you started like slowing down quite a bit because of your knee at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know if the cold helped or hurt it, but
I think it hurt it. And what it ended up being, which we'll get into it later, was my IT band was getting inflamed. And the more I just continued to walk, the worse and worse it got. And it just got inflamed and was putting pressure on my knee.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that further on.
Right. So, oh yeah, and then I remember, can't even talk right now. I remember specifically looking and having like signal on my phone somehow at one point, and I was like, okay, well we can. Doesn't Snapchat have an elevation thing, right? And I look at it, and then we looked at the map, and we were like, nah, because it was showing that we were like way lower than we were. But it was actually dead on when we figured out.
It said we still had like 1,000 feet to go, and we're like, well, this elevation thing on Snapchat can't be accurate.
Snapchat. It can't, like, we're out in the middle of nowhere. That can't be right. Like, I can't believe I even have signal right now. Like, yeah, that. So we looked at that, and I was like, I don't know, man. And the further we kept going, I kept saying, oh man, I don't know, like. I think that might have been right, dude. And you just, I remember you were like, nah, dude, there's no way, dude.
So we got to almost
there's no
be there.
way. Right. And then I would guesstimate at about the end of the third mile up Roan Mountain was when we had to take a long break. And then you made the call, and keep in mind the weather just keeps getting worse and worse and worse as we're going up this mountain. The wind just keeps getting harder and harder. The rain is pretty much turned into ice only at this point, and it's just a wet trail, like freezing rain on us and ice, and just not good.
Yeah, and I think we were debating saying we're exhausted. Let's just set up camp here, and I think we talked about it, and it was almost a serious decision that we'd set up camp there, but everything was soaking wet, and it would have been miserable, and we decided, said, hey, we're just gonna push through.
What sleeping bags did we have? I'm trying to remember.
I think I had my 20-degree bag, but I don't.
Still not, because we'll get to the temperature that it got down to.
A 20-degree bag keeps you alive at 20 degrees. You're not comfortable at 20 degrees.
It's like you're not going to die at 20. It's not like, oh, you'll be toasty and warm down to 20, and then you go to 19 and you'll be miserable. It's like, no, once you get to, like, that'll keep you warm at, like, 40, like, alive at 20. And then, well, I'd stretch it. I'd probably say keep you alive from, like, maybe 0 to 20. But
you're, like,
you're miserable.
Not
and
going to
then
be able to sleep.
Yeah, and then 20 is, like, if it's rated at 20 and you're at 20, it's, like, you're cold, but you're not, like, hypothermic. Yeah. So we're, like, 3 miles up Roan Mountain. Got one left to go. And I think, were you the one who just said, look, man, like, I know we're not supposed to do this, but, like, because we're Eagle Scouts, we stick to the buddy system, like, we're very safe, like, but I think that's when you suggested, like, we got to split up, dude, because...
Well, I think it was just, let's just get to the cabin. And I know you could have gone quicker. I was injured. I'm just going to take my time and get up the mountain. But get up there, find where we're going to set up.
Start a fire.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
Yeah, just, like, get everything set up so he could get back and just get warm. And hopefully I would have been warm by then. So I truck on, like, I'm miserable, but physically I'm okay. Like, I'm freezing, but, like, I mean, injury-wise, nothing's going on with me. And I was like, look, I'm pretty sure it's, like, we were pretty sure there was, like, a mile left, and I was like, that's okay, that shouldn't take you, but, like, longer than, like, did we say, like, after a certain amount of time, come look, or, like, I think that was probably just a given at that point. It was
just go.
Yeah.
I think we only had a mile, so I don't think it would have been that long. And really, I don't think we had too much issue that night. I think you got to camp, and I probably showed up 15 minutes later. I don't think I was that far.
It was like 30. I remember that. Because I remember starting to worry a bit. Yeah, it was definitely, like, I think 30, but, like, this man was not okay. Like, we kind of joked about it before, and Morgan was like, "Oh, like, this podcast is gonna make me look like kind of a bitch, dude." Because I'm gonna, like, I'm the guy who, like, screwed up the trip and all, but, like, it's not like that. Like, the man here was full on injured. But we'll get into that more. But so I get to camp. And this is when it becomes very important that the shelter was a cabin for the fire marshal. It had a door. So that might sound weird to hear, like, why would a shelter not have a door?
Most of the shelters on the Appalachian Trail are not a cabin. They look like a cabin on the map with your little symbols, but it's 3 walls and a roof. Yeah. And then a floor that's made out of 2x8s.
It's just
with an open face. So usually wind's whipping in and out. It really doesn't keep you any warmer than sleeping out in the ground. It just keeps you dry, and you don't have to set anything up. Yeah. You can hang your stuff up, and it's a nice place to sleep. But this wasn't like that. This was a cabin, and not just a regular cabin.
2-story too.
You open the door, and it's completely enclosed. Then you see a ladder. You can climb up, and then there's a loft up there that's completely enclosed with a full-on roof. And I don't think you had anything completely set up by the time I got there. I don't know.
No, because I didn't set up the tent yet. Because we were, like, inside. And then, like, I was like, well, clearly there's no fire tonight, bud, because it's storming out.
I don't know.
It's storm. So we kind of skipped over a bit. I think, like, we need to touch on, like, the top of Roan Mountain. Like, when we got up there, I remember seeing 2 other crazy dudes who came from the other direction, which really isn't too bad of a hike coming from the other side of the mountain. It's like 2 miles gradual up. Nice hike, get to the top. But of course, we just planned it so that we were ending up walking up the other side. Because we like a challenge. Like, we truly do enjoy a challenge, but weren't ready for that. But, like, I get to the top, and I'm sure it was the same for you. And it is just whipping wind, and the rain and the snow is coming down like crazy.
By the time I got to the top, it had stopped raining, and it was snowing at that point. I mean,
okay, yeah.
Because I remember the snow starting to get on the ground, and I'm like, and I'm not limping, but I'm working my way up the mountain real slow, and
You're
I'm just
shuffling.
like, I'm shuffling up the mountain, and it's just snow's getting on the ground. I'm trying not to slip, and I just remember seeing the cabin up there, and I'm like, oh, thank God that we made it up here. And I know Frank was already there, and he said, look what we have. We have a full-on cabin. Because if we didn't have that cabin, we would be a mile down the mountain.
Yeah.
We'd had set up our tent. We'd have been freezing, soaking wet, and
I'm glad that we decided to go to the top, dude. Yeah. Sorry, Mom, I don't mean to make you worried, but we could have died that night.
I think we could at least,
if not from the wind, dude, from a tree.
Well, we wouldn't have been able to get dry. We would have been hypothermic, frostbite. Yeah. Everything was wet. We wouldn't have been able to set up the tent and keep things dry.
Yeah.
So we went in there. And it was freezing. We were shivering. We were stripping our clothes off, trying to dry off. And we decided...
That's the worst. Explain that. That's the worst part about backpacking, like how you have to strip before you can be warm, before you allow yourself to...
Because everything's wet. I mean, you got to pull all your clothes off and get even colder just to dry off and get your
underwear
dry clothes off. So we decide that we're not only going to go in the cabin, we're going to go to the loft because... hot air rises, right? So we go up top, and we set up the tent inside. Just to enclose more air.
Yeah, even though it's just a backpacking tent with not even a millimeter thick.
But anything was gonna help.
Right.
But I don't know if you remember what temperature it got to that night, but I
do. It was 19.
It was 19, and we had packed for 45-degree weather and not raining and not snowing, and we were...
And I think I had a 20-degree bag, too. I don't know if I said that before either, but I think we both had 20-degree bags.
Yeah, and half of my clothes were wet, so I'm trying to put on all the dry clothes I have to stay warm in this, and it was not comfortable. We were freezing.
Morale is low, and we were kind of silent with each other because I think it was very clear that we were not about to finish this trip.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say anything, but I was just like, I'm trying to stretch out my leg. Hopefully in the morning I'll be all right. Yeah. It's a little tight now. I think I'll stretch it, I'll sleep it off, and we'll wake up and we'll keep going.
And then I remember looking at you and saying, we're not making it to the truck, are we?
Well, I don't think that decision was made until the morning, because I think
I think we did, dude. Because I think I said that to you. No, maybe we didn't, because I think we looked at the map and
we joked about it that night, and I said, "You're not going to be mad at me if I ruin this trip, right?"
Right, and I was like, no, I don't remember what I said, but I think I was definitely worried at that point. I was like, I don't think we're gonna, and I don't think you really thought we were probably gonna finish at that point, or did you?
I was back and forth. I did not want to quit the trip.
Yeah.
We had planned this whole thing. We just drove all the way down here. I said, I'm going to push through this trip. I'm going to make it.
Right.
In my mind, that's what I had set. But I knew I struggled up that mountain. And at the end, I was shuffling. I was just hoping that I could sleep off this injury and I'd be all right in the morning.
And we had days to go of that was probably going to be the hardest
incline. That would have been the hardest day.
Not easy days ahead, to say the least. So, yeah. We get up in the morning, clean up inside, have some breakfast, and we step outside. Definitely going to throw pictures up of this. And it is
a sheet of ice.
Do we want to say winter wonderland or wintry hellscape?
Yeah.
I say wintry hellscape.
There was ice everywhere. Snow was covering the ice.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up, too, going back to my injury, it was so much worse in the morning, just tightened up overnight. And I stood up, and I was like...
yeah, that was probably when...
I can't walk.
He couldn't. He really couldn't. That's why we're not upset with Morgan for this, because, like I said, Mans was injured.
Yeah, so I think we packed up as quick as we can, and the decision was, well, we got two options. We don't have service right now at the top of the mountain. Right. So we're like, well, let's go try to find service.
I remember our plan. So we were going to call an Uber. We were so ignorant. Yeah.
And we were either going to do that or call the hostel to pick us up.
Right.
But I think the first decision was, let's look at the map. Where's the closest road? We knew we passed a road 4 miles back what we just hiked up, so we can do that or we can go forward.
Right.
And we saw a road on the map, but not all roads on the Appalachian Trail map are real roads.
Right.
We don't have service.
Not all roads are made equal on the AT map.
Because it could just be like a dirt trail that's a fire road that no one ever
no
drives
one
past.
has
So
been
it's
up
like
and
it's rolling the dice. Is this going to be a real road? So hopefully we can get down there. We'll call someone to come pick us up, and that's what we ended up doing because it was only about 1.5 miles down from the campsite to the road. So we said, let's go forward and do this. And when we first started hiking, the trail was a river down the middle of the trail, and it was ice over top of it and snow everywhere, and we're slipping and sliding.
And the water was flowing underneath.
It was flowing underneath because you could break through the ice.
Yeah, that was. There's nothing worse than hiking on an icy trail.
And I was limping down, and I think I took one of your hiking poles at that point just to give me support while I was hiking down. And at this point, I know you were getting frustrated with me because I was hiking.
Well, I mean, like it's like that kind of frustration where it's like you understand that it's nobody's fault, but it's like this just sucks.
Yeah.
Like this is the worst.
And I think at that point I told you just keep going, I'll catch up. And I mean it was
I didn't though.
I think you went.
I think it was the very end that I finally when we got to the.
But it was 1.5 miles, and it probably took us 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get down there, just because I think
it was 2 miles, but to like explain at that time. In our condition that we were in for backpacking, which is, I mean, it had to be better than our condition now. I wouldn't be going like 18 miles like we did that one day. My knee couldn't handle
Not
that.
now.
No. But anyway, we were in like good conditions, and this wasn't like bad, like slope. So
I mean, we would have been going 2.5 to 3 miles an hour.
What do you think that would have taken us? Like.
An hour, maybe.
Maybe. Like, probably 45 minutes on a good day. So, like, 2 hours to get down this thing. And, like, in the beginning, it was actually tough for me, too, though, because that ice. Like, we had to shuffle down. But, man, I don't know if you guys have ever been, like, near a man who is in actual pain. But they don't complain. They don't, because especially in a situation like this, it's like we just have to get to the bottom, and I'm not carrying you and your pack, so it's like
I'm just gonna deal with it, and I didn't have an option. I had to keep going.
Yeah.
If we didn't have service, what was I just gonna sit on the mountain? So I just bite my tongue and just work through it.
He is silent. He is silent except for like every other step, just. And it's like that kind of grunt where it's like he's not complaining. He just cannot help but make that noise because his knee is hurting like so bad. And like, that's when I stopped being so like this is my last spring break. I'm like, man, like trips run, like this is a disaster. Even if Morgan's knee didn't get screwed up, this is still a disaster with this weather, and like we're not prepared for this. We're gonna have to quit. I'm like, just like, all right, well, we can at least go to like Nashville still. Like that'll be fun. Like screw it, we'll just go hard when we get there and like see all these bands and hit these bars and just have a good time. And like, it is what it is, right? Like Roan Mountain, despite all of this. I think even at that point, I still thought that was like a sick hike.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like we're in a miserable situation, and I'm still like, yeah, that was a dope mountain, though, right? Like, but yeah. So we make it down finally after like a couple hours, and I think at the very end, I was like, all right, it's looking like pretty flat through there. There's no more ice. It goes like through the woods more, and I'm like, all right, I'll meet you at the road.
We get to this road, and it's a big road, and it normally would be busy, I would think. But there was a parking lot there, and there was maybe 1 or 2 cars in it, but there was no people, no one to be seen. There were probably other hikers on the trail that just dropped their car off and left, and they might not be back for days. So we're standing up there, and it is so snowy, foggy, and you can barely see.
Like just a
40
blizzard,
feet
like
in
a
front of you.
literal blizzard hit the night before. Like the road is just like just snow, like that you cannot see the road, and we're just like well, first of all, we're like looking at the phone trying to call an Uber and like that.
Absolutely.
I can't even believe that we had that idea. Like
no service at all.
Yeah. Well, also just like there is not Uber in Elizabethton, Tennessee.
Well, we could at least call the hostel again.
But right. So
absolutely no service. We walked around, nothing.
And we're just like, dude, like we're not hiking further. What would be the use of that? And then we come up with the brilliant backpackers idea. Well, time to hitchhike.
Let's hitchhike.
And then I think seconds after we were like, no one's coming on this road.
Well,
like, what are we thinking?
I think we saw 1 or 2 cars, but they drove right past us. We tried to wave them down, and there was nothing. I think there were.
I think it was one.
One car.
I think it was one went by, and we were like, dude, like this is.
We're not going to get off.
This is useless. Yeah, we're like trapped. And it's good. I think I said it, but it's Carver's Gap that we're at, which is like a famous spot on the Appalachian Trail because the largest natural rhododendron garden in the world is on like the Roan Highlands, and it's like a big thing to go in the spring, see the bloom of the rhododendrons. We were a bit before that because it's still March. The day was March 4th on that Sunday. I remember that very clearly. March 4th, 2019. Yeah, so that's the year I graduated. Yeah, so it's still freezing, the wind's whipping. It's not precipitating that morning at all, luckily. I mean, the trees were quite beautiful covered in all that snow. There's like Roan Mountain's covered in, I want to say red spruce, and some kind of fir, I think, is the high elevation trees that make it up there. I'm not entirely sure though. I'll probably put something over in text that says what it actually was, if I got that wrong. But I'm pretty sure that the red spruce are still there, or some kind of spruce. Up here in West Virginia in the high Alleghenies, it's the red spruce and eastern hemlock are the two high elevation coniferous trees. But it looks the same on Roan Mountain. But when it gets covered, like it gets covered in like a glistening like ice sheet on every little like limb. It looks sick, but I mean like we're having a horrible time. Then we found this other little section of parking lot. As we're just standing there like nobody's coming, dude. We like huddle behind this car. We're just shivering, like trying to find the side of the car. Not ours, obviously. Just some car in the parking lot. And we're trying to get away from the wind. Just having a horrible time. Then comes down, I don't know his real name, so I'll call him by his Instagram, Malik Pixels, dude.
Malik
like
Pixels.
The photographer.
I think he had this Subaru he was driving.
Yeah, dude, I think it was. Which is awesome. But we so he like comes up to us and I think he said something like, you guys look like you need help. And like we immediately like we're not guys that like and like it's probably like not a good thing, but like we just don't ask for help. Like unless we are in survival mode, which we for sure were. And I remember I don't remember who it was, but immediately one of us was like, yeah, dude, we're not doing good. Like, can we just get like a ride or something? Like, and you could tell he was like, dang, dude, like these guys need help. And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like nicest guy that ever. And like,
so he was there because he wanted to hike up the mountain and take pictures of it. He was a photographer, and later on, we found out he's got this Instagram and he's got a bunch of posts up there. But he wanted to go up and take his drone out, but it was too windy. It was foggy. You couldn't see anything, and he said, "Well, I'll take you guys down. Maybe the fog will clear up." So he was helpful in that situation. So he definitely
It was lucky. Very lucky that the conditions were okay enough for him to be up there, but crappy enough for no good photography. Like, I'm sorry, Malik, if that is your first name, but I'm glad that you were having a bad day for photography that day, my man. Really appreciate it. So, he lets us like load up our gear in his car, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll take you down to Roan Mountain," which is the town name that's right near it. Elizabethton is like the biggest town near there, and then
yeah. So we basically said, take us to the closest gas station,
Right.
or take us to where we have phone service, so we can call somebody to take us back to our car, because we weren't expecting him to take me to my truck, which
Right.
was an hour and a half away.
yeah. So we were just trying to get where we get signal, and then we were gonna try to call the shuttle service again to come and pick us up, because I remember that guy. Like he was like, you could tell he kind of like didn't believe in us. I feel like a little bit dropping us off. Couldn't you kind of tell? Like a little bit. There was some, I don't remember why, but I remember feeling that vibe a little bit. But yeah, he was right. So, good for him. So we get in his car, start riding down the mountain.
And keep in mind, we're in the middle of nowhere. There's
Middle of
no
nowhere.
houses around, nothing. It's just a road.
There's a few like tucked back.
But we're just going down this road, following the mountain. Snow everywhere, wind blowing. It was miserable conditions up there. No service, nothing.
Yeah. And how far? I think it was. I don't want to say the wrong road name, but I think it was like route. Everyone makes fun of me for saying route instead of route, but that's how I say it. So Route 64, I want to say.
I couldn't tell you.
I'll figure it out. Doesn't really matter, but that's the road we're going down, like from Carver's Gap to Roan Mountain, the town. Like traveling down the mountain, Roan Mountain. Just to keep it simple for you guys. So we're how far do you think we made it down? Like a quarter, half mile maybe? I remember being in his car and just being delirious.
Yeah, I was exhausted.
Like just no energy, like just like not really comprehending like what crappy of a situation.
I think you were at least having a conversation with the guy.
I
telling him what's
but
happened.
I'm
I
like,
was sitting
nah.
in the back, just
Yeah.
blanked out, just not saying a word.
Did your knee hurt in the car, or was it just when you would put pressure?
It was just moving it. So it was my IT band was inflamed. So it pretty much felt like I was stretching a rubber band. I could feel it in my leg. Every time I bent my leg, it felt like I was pulling a rubber band, and it was getting near like the edge, right where it was about to break, and it was just like I couldn't bend it anymore. I just had to slowly like hobble down the road. But when I sat down and wasn't moving it, it was okay.
Okay, so you're just drained basically then at this point, yeah. And I'm pretty drained. And I was having a conversation with this guy, and in the midst of that, like we said, I think like a half mile down, out comes this hound dog, no collar. It's very apparent immediately that he's got no collar on, and I'm like, dude, it was 19 degrees last night. Like that's the first thought in my head. And I just see that he's like super dirty.
He was running down the middle of the road.
Yeah, he ran out right in front of our car.
Yep.
Like, kind of like trotting down the middle of the road, like away from our, like going the same direction as us, but like right in front of our car. And I don't think much was said other than, well, we can't just leave him. That's what I said. I looked at the driver, Malik, and I'm like, I don't know, like that's all I got, dude. Like for his name, so. But I look at, so that's what we're gonna call him. We're gonna call him Malik. I like look at him and I'm like, we can't just leave him. And I'm dead serious. I'm just delirious, drained, like a little more there than Morgan, I suppose, maybe. I'm just not thinking straight, and I'm like, But I mean, I care for animals. Like that's the whole point of this whole YouTube channel, so I hope you guys have gathered that I care about animals at this point. But yeah, so I care about animals. I'm like, we can't just leave this dog. And slight backstory, this was March. I'm supposed to graduate in May, and my mom had already decided like my graduation gift was going to be a dog. So I'll just throw that out there. So we, he's the driver is like, well, I mean, like, what did he say? Like, I don't even
I don't
remember.
think he said much, and the dog finally kind of came to the side of the road, and he was gonna like pass him, and you said, "No, we can't just leave him here." And you told him to stop, and he said, "Okay."
Right, he was like, "Okay." I mean, like, I guess his thought was like, "I'm already dropping off these two disgusting, dirty hikers. Like, what?
Well, I didn't think he didn't think you were actually gonna get this dog. He thought it was gonna run away or something. And as he slowed down, I don't think he was even stopped by the time you jumped out of the car. He opened the car, jumped out, and he's like looking back at this dog, like trying to get its attention and bring it towards him. Yeah. And I remember he looks back at the driver and said, "Hey, do you have any food?"
Right.
So I was sitting in the back.
And I'm like, nah. I'm literally just like, we got to get this dog. So we're stopped at there's a guardrail. So our car's like here, and the guardrail's coming around like this kind of bend. And it's just drop off. So our car's here, drop off, guardrail, dog's right here on the other side of the guardrail, like towards the drop off. And I'm just like, man, he's dirty, dude. Like, this dog is covered in, because it's literally freezing outside, he's covered in frozen mud all over his body. Mm-hmm. He's got, like, little, like, scratches on his snout and stuff. I think he's still got a scar. Like, but he's just, like, he's got a couple, like, little teeny, like, bloody spots. I think on his feet were all raw. And skinny.
Very.
Very skinny. Hips showing, spine showing. Like, clearly not a dog that has been living somewhere and just escaped today. Right? Like, that was very apparent. Or was living somewhere up until that day and was being treated very horribly by his owners. So if you guys, if he did have owners and you are watching this, like, I'm not sorry. He's mine now. So, but I remember getting these barbecue chips from Malik. He had a bag of barbecue chips.
They weren't even open. He opened his bag.
Yeah, I got this man's like bag of chips. He's like, well, I guess you can have these to feed the mangy dog outside, like whatever. And I grabbed those chips, grab a few out, and I'm like trying to get this dog to come towards me with the food. He's not worried about that. He's just terrified. Keeps going back and forth for a little bit. And eventually he comes up like kind of close to me, and he couldn't get down this ravine, like this drop off, too steep. So he's kind of just walking like along the edge of it, like the car's over here, guardrail. He's trapped between the guardrail and me on the other side, and just keeps like kind of going back and forth. And all of a sudden I'm like, do I just grab? Like, I'm thinking in my head, I didn't say this out loud, but I'm like, do I just grab him? Like. Because, like, you never know what a dog's going to do. And this dog looks scared. Like, I'm like, he's probably going to bite me. Like, and then I'm like, screw it. So I like, grab for him. He just, like, goes, like, not like he fainted or anything, but he kind of just goes limp. Like, you got me. All right.
Like, he was exhausted, had no energy to fight.
Yeah. He was in the same, well, definitely worse, but, like, same, like, similar mindset to us at this point. Like, we're having a bad time. He's having a bad time. Malik's probably just having like a wild day, I guess. And yes, I grab him and I put him on my. I think I gave him to you.
No, first. We were gonna bring him in the car, and Malik said, "Hey, I've got a tarp. Can you at least put it down?" So he grabs this tarp out of the back of his car. And he gives it to me, and we wrap the dog in, and I have him in my lap in the back seat, and then you jump back in.
And then I think you handed him to me, and I had this orange paracord, and I made I didn't double it, but I guess quadrupled over is the word, and made it like 4 lengths thick, because it's like thin paracord. I didn't want to like hurt the boy, and we just made like a little makeshift leash. And then our plan that was said out loud was we're going to head to the nearest gas station. Malik's going to let us off with the dog. We're going to then find the shelter. There had to be a shelter, I guess, in Elizabethton. We're going to take him there, see if he had a chip, try to return him to his owners. Because we were like, we weren't thinking like, oh, this was like maliciously done to this dog or whatever. We were just thinking probably escaped, and we just found him. Let's find his owners. Like, but immediately as soon as he was in my lap, I was keeping him. Like that was very like clear. Like I will like give the disclaimer. Like had we found a chip in his neck, like I would have returned him. But more on that later. So we get to this gas station. There's no like shelter there or whatever. At least I don't think one was open, I don't think there was one, right?
For what?
Like nearby, was there a shelter? Why did we not?
Well, we went to this gas station and we pretty much told Malik that we're good. We have
Yeah.
service. We'll figure it out. So
And
he
it's a
kind of
lot
dropped us off.
warmer
He
at the
said,
bottom of the.
"Are you guys sure?" He said, "Yeah, we're good." And we offered to give him some
Right.
money, but he wouldn't take it. So he took off and Frank said, "I'm going to go inside and grab some food."
Right, and
So I think he gets some beef jerky.
yeah,
and some
beef.
something.
I was like,
Maybe
what
some-
would a dog like out of a gas station? Like beef jerky, and I think that's like all I got.
So
right?
I'm sitting outside with the backpack, sitting on the ground with this
We
dog.
just look like
I look
idiots.
like a homeless person
Yeah,
sitting
dude.
there, and he's inside trying to get food for this dog, and he comes out, and dog wouldn't eat anything.
Nothing.
And I know,
And I was like, dude, it's a beef jerky stick. Like, what's wrong with this dog right now?
right?
And he's, I think we noticed in the car actually that he was gargling his breath.
Yeah.
And that's like a sign of hypothermia. So, like, pretty sure that he was hypothermic when we got him. And the temperature was just dropping that day. It was going to be 9 degrees that night.
Yeah.
Because it was 19, then it was going to be 9 that night. So, the night that we found him. Then we went to.
Well, you call the
Yeah, we're at the gas
shuttle.
station still. I call the shuttle service. I'm like, telling them our situation. Like, we are not doing good. We're literally like almost dying out here. We got this dog. Trying to take him to shelter. You mind picking him up? They're like, yeah, dude. Like, we pick up like people that are dirtier than you.
and
Like,
they actually said, "Hey, we keep dogs here. You can hand them off to us, and we'll take care of them."
Yeah.
I think at that point, you said, "No, we'll handle it."
Yeah,
We'll
I
take
was
care of
like,
the
we
dog,
got
we'll
it.
take him to
Like,
the vet.
this is our
figure it out."
mission now. Yeah. And then we got in that. Man, it ended up being like an hour drive or
At least.
something crazy.
At least, but
Um,
I think it was a pretty quiet drive.
Yeah.
The whole way there, we
To
were
your truck.
exhausted. We had the dog wrapped up, and we just drove to my truck pretty quietly, and we finally got up there, transferred everything over to my truck, and
Yep.
they asked one more time, said, "Hey, we can take the dog. Are you sure?" I said, "No, we'll handle it." So
Right.
you jump in the truck, Roan in your lap in the passenger seat. We pack everything up, and we take off in my truck.
And our plan now was, because we didn't find I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think we just like didn't find a shelter in Elizabethton or Roan. So, and by this point we figured out that we missed out on a part, dude, in the car. Who named him? It wasn't me and it wasn't you, dude. It was Malik. Because we got him in my lap, and he was just like, Little Roan. And I was like, dude, that's his name. Like, it's got to be Roan. Like found him on Roan Mountain, like, for sure. That's this little dog. Like, that's so badass. Like, Roan. Like, that's sick. And then I think that's when we found out from him. We were like, oh, is
That's
that how
how
you
you
say it?
pronounce
Yeah,
it.
and he was like, yeah, it's not Rowan, it's Roan. So that's how we finally figured out the name. How it was pronounced. So we're back to Morgan's truck. We were like, all right, here's our plan. We're gonna go back to Harrisonburg. We'll just like have a good time there. We might go hiking in Shenandoah a bit. Not backpacking. We're just gonna do some day hikes, chill out, maybe get some good food in Harrisonburg, and wait. And it's Sunday at this point. No. Monday. Because Saturday we got in, Sunday we hiked to the top of Roan. Monday, March 4th. So it's Monday. We're like, we just got to make it till Friday. Then we'll just drive from here to Nashville. We still got that hotel room. still, like, I'm lying to myself and saying, yeah, like, I'm gonna drop this dog off. We're gonna go and see if he has a chip at the shelter or somewhere in Harrisonburg, and then since we're already going back to Nashville, we're gonna pass through like this area, more or less. So, if he's got a chip, we'll just find his owners, and then on the way back to Nashville, we'll drop him off. Like, solid plan, I thought. And then here's what so we finally get to the vet, and
well, hold on. Let's go back to our drive back.
Yeah, you're right,
JMU.
dude. We're forgetting the Arby's, dude.
This dog is starving. He's dehydrated. He's hypothermic. So we're trying to give him water. He wouldn't drink, and we're like, well, let's get him some food. And he wouldn't eat the beef jerky. So we're like, maybe we'll get him something a little bit soft or something he'll eat. So we stop at Arby's, and we're trying to pull some roast beef off the sandwich. We're like, dog.
We're like, well, he's got to eat like fresh cooked like roast beef, right? Like that's a dog's dream, and he's just not going for it.
Would not eat. The only thing we were able to get him to eat is he would lick the ranch out of the ranch cup from.
Yeah, I think we got it for our fries or whatever, and he started like. He loved that ranch, and that was the funniest thing.
So he had like 2 cups of ranch. That's all he had that whole time.
Like not cups, but like 2 little like ranch fast food. Not that the cup would have been bad for him at that point. He could have used the calories for sure.
So we get to JMU. He calls the vet, and we set up something. He said we can't until the next morning. So we're trying to give him like actual dog food at this point. We stopped at Walmart, picked up dog food.
I think he did eat that night.
He wouldn't for a long time. We had him sitting up on the couch. We had the dog bowl and the water bowl up on the couch, which we were making a mess with. But he finally started drinking a little bit of water as he warmed up, and I think he did eventually eat food.
And he stopped like the gargling breath. So like somehow like I don't really know the protocol for at least an animal, like getting them cured of hypothermia, but I think you just slowly warm them up, right? Like
I don't know the protocol either, but that's basically what we did.
That's what we did. He's like, you saw him at the beginning. He's okay. But yeah. So then, I guess next point of the story is to the vet, the Massanutten Animal Clinic, or I think that's what it's called. We show up and we're, they know our story and they're like, oh, you guys are the guys that like found the dog in the mountain. They're like, yeah, like I kind of just want a free dog at this point. Like I'm obsessed with this dude. Like he's awesome. We were vibing that night. I'll show you. I'll throw up the picture right now of me and him like looking at each other because we're like looking at. He's like on like, where am I? Like what is happening right now? And I'm just like, this is Roan, dude. Like. Awesome. We got there, and then I think one of the first things they did was the only thing I remember really was them doing the chip test. I don't know if you remember, but I remember they have this like wand that they put over his neck, like this, and like check to see if he's got a chip. I remember very clearly hearing a beep, and then there was 2. What? Well, they weren't like veterinarians. What do you call them?
Like the nurse of the veterinarian clinic?
Yeah, whatever that is. And I don't mean to like, offend, but I don't know what to call it. So the vet nurse.
We're naive.
Yeah, the vet nurses, we'll call them, are like kind of make a look at each other. Like very quick. Do you remember that? Or
I don't.
So I remember like them like looking at each other, like kind of just like real quick. And then I was like, so what, like, does he have a chip or like what? And then they're like, nope, no chip. Like, and I'm always like skeptical, like, did he have one? And they saw him and they were just like, we can't like let these guys like give him back to like the owner or whatever. Or like, I'm probably thinking too deep into it, but like, that did happen. Like I remember it very clearly, like that happening, like them kind of making a look at each other, and but they told us they didn't. So I was like, well, now we have this dog from like Tennessee.
Yeah, well, and they did a checkup over him, make sure everything was okay.
They did that too.
And I think we asked how old he was, and their best guess was maybe 1 to 2. in between there.
Yeah, they guessed like off though, because he was not. He was smaller than he is now,
Mm-hmm.
and then I took him to my once like I obviously I kept the dog, so we're not. But once I then like took him to my vet at home, I think like at that point they were like, oh, he's no older than 6 months, and then like every other vet that or people that I've like dog people and stuff, they were all like, yeah, no, he doesn't look very old at all. He was still pretty puppyish.
He might have just looked aged from being dehydrated,
right,
starving,
like,
and
he's
caked in
battered.
mud.
The man was battered. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I wish that y'all could see right now because he is just out like a light. He's so asleep that his eyes are like slightly cracked open, like that kind of slump. Wow. All right, Bubba. Are you a good boy? Mm-hmm. We're talking about you. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So we then like left there, and I was like, Morgan, like, who does the dog go to? And then I remember you being like, you told him to stop the car, man. Like, I think he said like, I'll take him, but I think like he's yours if you want him, man. Like, I'm not gonna like, you know. And I was like, I don't have any money. Like, I'm a stupid like college kid. I don't know anything about like how to like train a dog yet or nothing. And I'm like, I was about to get a dog in 3 months anyway. Screw it, let's do it. And I had a heck of a time like getting my landlord to approve it. We only had like a couple months left, and it said in the lease that we were allowed to have a dog. We just had to negotiate the terms with him. So it was like, yes, but you have to like negotiate the terms. And I think he like got me to pay a ton of money for like the 2 or 3 months that I had like left there. It was ridiculous. I think, well, it was like 2 because graduated like May 5th or something like that. So yeah, that was kind of crappy of him. But yeah, I ended up keeping the dog, and I remember my mom. I sent her a picture when we were at that gas station in Roan Mountain, and she's told me a million times like, oh no, I knew as soon as you sent me that picture of that dog, you were keeping it. There was no
and we have a
way.
We have a bunch of pictures. We'll probably put up.
Yeah, they'll be up like periodically when the time calls for it. But just a crazy awesome story that like I really wanted to share with you guys about like finding my dog Roan here. I'm gonna try and call him back over. Come here, Bubba. Come say bye. As a boy. But as you can see, we got him all healthy now, and I got him trained up, and he's an awesome trail dog. Y'all have seen him on the trail, and in a ton of my videos. On my very first video, I went over this story, but not in this detail. And I really just want to share with you guys. This is Rony Boy, the legend. Rony Baloney. He has many different names. The Boy sometimes, but Roan officially. And if you're wondering like what he is, I'm 99% sure he's got Beagle in him. My best guess is that he's a Beagle Foxhound mix. If you guys like have any suggestions on what you think he might be, please drop him in the comments. Like, here he is. Here he is. Like, if you want to check him out. No, but he's got the only thing that I don't know is if he was a full like hound, like 2 different hounds. Beagles and foxhounds individually both have longer ears than he's got, so that's the only thing that throws me off. But what would you guess? Probably that, right?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, your guess is better than mine.
Because he's too tall to be a beagle, and like I said, the ears aren't really long enough, but his colors are very like that of what hounds would be. So like he's definitely a mutt, but he doesn't look like a classic mutt where the color is all crazy and different. Like I think he's a pretty boy. But obviously I'm biased. Like, but yeah, like that is the story of Roan the dog from Roan Mountain and how I rescued this guy. And he's just my best friend, and we go on tons of adventures together, and like so glad to have him. Like I said, I was gonna get a dog in a couple months anyway. Like, what better way than to have gotten one on a backpacking trip went wrong?
Yeah.
And
when you say you rescue a dog, you truly rescued the dog.
We for sure rescued, and like we were being rescued, and then rescued it.
Yeah.
Like it was like not easy for us to rescue him. So, but yeah, if you're wondering, we never made it to Nashville.
Yeah, we had to cancel the hotel.
Yeah.
All that, but.
Morgan left after like 2 other days, I think.
I think I pretty much told him. I said, "Hey,
you went shooting with your brother.
I just got to go home."
Yeah, like because it wasn't. Then it just became like me training this new dog that I had, and it was like, well, Morgan wasn't gonna keep him. Like he was like, I'll just leave you to it.
And I did end up healing my knee, but I had to go to the physical therapist at work, and he worked on me a little bit. But after some time, I finally was able to. Go hiking again.
Right.
I haven't done anything long distance like what we've done, but.
Well, I mean, but we've been on some trips.
Yeah, we have.
For sure. And it wasn't like I was like, oh man, like we can't go further. Like it wasn't. It was just a regular trip for me, as it was for him. So, Morgan's knee's okay, Roan's okay, we're all doing good. I think that's probably like a good point to wrap it up, right? Like
yeah. I mean, I think we hit it all. We got Roan here with us. And
yeah. So cheers. Rowdy boy with the yawn to end it off. I hope y'all learned something new. And as always, peace.